It's 11:47 p.m. You're lying in bed. Lights off, phone 6 inches from your face. You weren't planning to buy anything. You were just scrolling. One video turns into 5. 5 turns into 20. And then suddenly you're staring at a product you didn't even know existed 3 minutes ago. It looks useful, smart, efficient. There's a countdown. Timer ticking down in red. Only 3 left. Flash sale ends in 9 minutes. Your heart rate lifts slightly. You feel a subtle urgency, a whisper in your head saying, if you don't get this now, you'll regret it. So you tap. Confirm. Done. The next morning, you barely remember buying it. 3 days later, it arrives. You open the package. And the excitement? It's gone. The product feels ordinary, neutral. You place it somewhere in your home. And within a week, it blends into the background of your life like it was never important at all. If this feels familiar, I need you to understand something that might completely change how you see yourself. You are not irresponsible. You are not weak. You are not uniquely bad with money. Your brain is functioning exactly the way it evolved to function. But the modern economy has learned how to exploit that wiring with surgical precision. What you're experiencing isn't a lack of discipline. It's a collision between ancient survival biology and a trillion-dollar digital marketplace optimized to trigger it. For decades, we've been told dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That's a dangerously simplified explanation. Dopamine is not about pleasure. It's about anticipation. It spikes when your brain detects the possibility of reward. Not when you receive it, when you expect it. The emotional high you feel while browsing, comparing, imagining, and adding items to your cart is chemically stronger than the feeling you get after the package arrives. In other words, your brain rewards wanting more than having. That means the most powerful part of the shopping experience happens before you own anything. Once the item becomes real, the fantasy collapses. And so does the dopamine. This is why product marketing rarely focuses on the object itself. It focuses on the lifestyle around it. The perfectly lit kitchen, the hyper-organized desk, the calm morning routine, the influencer whose life looks structured, aesthetic, and in control. They're not selling a garlic press, a planner, or a productivity app. They're selling the imagined version of you who owns it. The disciplined you, the healthier you, the more successful you. You're not buying the object. You're buying temporary access to a fantasy identity. And once that fantasy dissolves, you're left with something ordinary and a bank balance that's slightly smaller. But the manipulation doesn't stop at desire. Your brain also experiences spending money as pain. Neuroscience studies have shown that when you see a price, the part of your brain associated with physical discomfort activates. The shopping experience happens before you own anything. Once the item becomes real, the fantasy collapses, and so does the dopamine. This is why product marketing rarely focuses on the object itself. It focuses on the lifestyle around it. The perfectly lit kitchen, the hyper-organized desk, the calm morning routine, the influencer whose life looks structured, aesthetic, and in control. They're not selling a garlic press, a planner, or a productivity app. They're selling the imagined version of you who owns it. The disciplined you, the healthier you, the more successful you. You're not buying the object. You're buying temporary access to a fantasy identity. And once that fantasy dissolves, you're left with something ordinary and a bank balance that's slightly smaller. But the manipulation doesn't stop at desire. Your brain also experiences spending money as pain. Neuroscience studies have shown that when you see a price, the part of your brain associated with physical discomfort activates. Spending literally hurts. And because it hurts, modern financial technology has been engineered to numb that pain. Cash is the most painful form of payment because you physically see it leave your hands. Credit cards abstract the loss. Tap to pay removes another layer of awareness. Digital wallets make the transaction nearly invisible. And buy now, pay later splits one painful moment into 4 smaller, almost undetectable ones. When you divide $100 into 4 payments of $25, your brain doesn't emotionally register $100. It registers $25. The total never feels real. This is not accidental. Friction protects consumers. So companies remove friction. Every extra step between you and checkout reduces sales. That's why one-click purchasing systems increased revenue dramatically. That's why your card information is stored automatically. That's why apps default to save payment method. The easier it is to spend, the less your rational brain has time to intervene. You're not spending more because you suddenly became careless. You're spending more because the architecture around you was redesigned to bypass hesitation. Then there's scarcity, one of the oldest psychological levers in existence. Only two left. Limited edition. Sale ends in 6 minutes. Scarcity activates loss aversion, which is the cognitive bias, where losing feels roughly twice as painful as gaining feels good. When you see that timer counting down, your brain isn't calmly evaluating whether you need the product. It's reacting to the fear of missing an opportunity. And fear is a far stronger motivator than logic. The urgency overrides evaluation. You don't buy because the product is exceptional. You buy because the alternative, missing out, feels worse. And in the digital era, the battlefield has shifted from stores to screens. Social media platforms have integrated shopping directly into your entertainment feed. You're not going to a store with intention. You're relaxing. You're bored. You're emotionally open. Algorithms track what you pause on, what you replay, what you linger over. They learn your insecurities, your aspirations, your late-night vulnerability. Then they feed you hyper-targeted products at the exact moment your impulse control is lowest. The scroll becomes a marketplace. Every swipe is a potential transaction. You weren't searching. You weren't planning. You were just there. And suddenly, you're buying. The financial consequences of this environment compound silently. A $20 impulse purchase doesn't feel life-altering. But repeated daily, weekly, monthly, it becomes wealth erosion. If someone is 25 years old and redirects just $20 per day into an investment earning a modest long-term return, the compounding over 30 to 40 years can reach 7 figures. That $20 is not just a meal delivery or an unnecessary gadget. It is decades of financial optionality, the ability to retire earlier, the ability to leave a job you dislike, the ability to say no. Small daily leaks don't feel dramatic, but time magnifies them. Subscriptions amplify this effect. Small recurring payments rarely trigger emotional alarms because they are fragmented. A streaming service here, a premium app there, a storage upgrade, a delivery membership. Individually, each charge feels minor. Collectively, they form a steady outflow that most people underestimate significantly. Because the charges are automated, they escape conscious review. Money leaves quietly. No dramatic swipe. No checkout page. Just slow drift. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. The system is optimized for conversion, not for your well-being. Marketing teams measure click-through rates, average order values, and retention metrics. They test button colors. They test wording. They test countdown durations. Behavioral economists are hired to refine the psychological triggers that increase sales. Probability by fractions of a percent, which translate into billions of dollars. Your impulses are studied. Your reactions are quantified. Your hesitation is analyzed. This isn't conspiracy. It's commerce. But this doesn't mean you're powerless. Awareness changes leverage. The most powerful first defense is delay. The 24-hour rule interrupts the dopamine cycle. When you add something to your cart and wait a full day, the emotional surge dissipates. Often, the desire disappears with it. What felt urgent becomes irrelevant. That delay reactivates the rational part of your brain that scarcity tactics suppress. Another shift is reframing cost as time, not money. If you earn $30 per hour after taxes and a product costs $150, that item represents 5 hours of your life. 5 hours you worked. 5 hours you cannot recover. Viewing purchases through the lens of life energy rather than currency forces clarity. Is it worth that exchange? Environmental design matters too. Design matters too. Friction can be reintroduced deliberately. Remove save payment methods. Delete shopping apps. Use browser versions without one-tap checkout. Even small inconveniences create pause. And pause creates space for reasoning. Cash budgeting for discretionary spending increases. Spending awareness because the physical act of parting with money restores the sensation of cost. Most importantly, this is not about eliminating joy or becoming hyperfrugal. It's about alignment. Intentional spending feels different from reactive spending. Buying something that genuinely enhances your life does not produce regret. Impulse buying driven by algorithmic manipulation does. The goal is not to stop spending. It's to spend consciously. Consumer culture often convinces you that acquisition equals progress. But happiness research consistently shows that beyond a certain level of comfort, additional possessions do not significantly increase life satisfaction. Humans adapt quickly. The new item becomes normal. The excitement fades. Then the cycle repeats. This phenomenon, sometimes called the hedonic treadmill, ensures that chasing satisfaction through material accumulation never reaches a permanent destination. When you understand this, something shifts. The countdown timers lose urgency. The limited editions feel less threatening. The impulse weakens. Because once you see the mechanics, they're harder to fall for. The garlic press was never about garlic. The gadget wasn't about productivity. The skincare wasn't about transformation. Your money is stored time. Every dollar represents hours of your life. When you spend unconsciously, you're not just losing cash. You're trading pieces of your future for momentary stimulation. But when you spend intentionally aligned with your values and long-term vision, money becomes a tool rather than a leak. The real flex isn't buying everything you can afford. It's needing less than you earn. It's building enough margin that a late night scroll doesn't control your financial trajectory. It's waking up without anxiety when you check your bank account. That peace is more powerful than any impulse purchase could ever be. And the next time you're lying in bed, thumb hovering over buy now, remember this: the urgency is manufactured. The scarcity is strategic. The dopamine spike is temporary. But the compounding effect of money, whether lost or invested, is permanent. And here's where the conversation becomes even more important. Because most people stop at, I should spend less. But they never examine the deeper layer, identity. Spending is rarely about utility. It's about who you believe you are or who you're trying to become. Think about it carefully. When someone buys a premium gym membership but barely goes, they're not buying workouts. They're buying the identity of a disciplined person. When someone upgrades their phone every year, they're not buying technology. They're buying relevance, status, belonging, convenience. They're buying relief, comfort, a reward. Money flows toward emotional needs far more than logical needs. The market understands this better than most consumers do. That's why branding is more powerful than features. Two nearly identical products can have wildly different price tags because one carries an identity narrative. Luxury brands don't sell materials. They sell status signaling. Tech brands don't sell hardware. They sell innovation identity. Fitness brands don't sell fabric. They sell transformation symbolism. When you swipe your card, you're often purchasing a feeling. And feelings are temporary. That's why regret sets in quickly. The emotional promise attached to the purchase dissolves faster than the credit card balance does. The fantasy version of yourself disappears. What remains is reality and a payment due date. This is where opportunity cost becomes critical. Most people think of spending in isolation. It's only $40. It's just $12. It's only this once. But money is never isolated. Every dollar has an alternative future. It can be consumed now, or it can be invested and multiplied. The power of compounding is not dramatic in the short term. It's quiet, invisible, boring. But over decades, it becomes life-altering. When you choose to spend unconsciously, you're not just choosing the product. You're choosing to give up the compounded future that dollar could have built. That doesn't mean never enjoying your money. It means recognizing trade-offs. And here's something most people never realize. Financial stress is rarely caused by one massive mistake. It's caused by thousands of small, unexamined decisions. It's subscriptions left running. It's food ordered out of habit. It's convenience chosen automatically. It's upgrades justified emotionally. None of them feel catastrophic. But collectively, they create fragility. That fragility is what keeps people stuck. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't always about income level. Many high earners experience it too. The difference isn't salary. It's margin. And margin is built by intentional control over outflows. Now pause for a second and imagine something different. Imagine waking up and checking your bank account without tension. Imagine knowing your expenses are aligned with your values. Imagine investing consistently and watching your net worth grow quietly in the background. No dramatic moves, no overnight wealth schemes, just steady progress. That feeling doesn't come from making more impulse purchases. It comes from reducing frictionless spending and redirecting that energy into assets. Assets work while you sleep. Impulse purchases don't. One builds freedom. The other builds clutter. And here's the subtle shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" start asking, "Does this move me forward?" Because affordability and alignment are not the same thing. You can afford something and still sabotage your long-term position. Afford sabotage your long-term position. Another powerful mental model is this. Treat spending decisions like votes for your future self. Every purchase is a vote. Are you voting for long-term stability or short-term stimulation? Are you voting for independence or dependency on your next paycheck? When you frame it this way, decision-making becomes clearer. None of this is about perfection. You will still make emotional purchases sometimes. You're human, but the goal isn't elimination. It's awareness. Because awareness reduces frequency, and frequency is what determines financial trajectory. You don't need extreme deprivation. You need boundaries. A fixed amount allocated intentionally for guilt-free. Enjoyment prevents rebellion spending. When everything is restricted, the brain pushes back. But when spending is structured, it becomes conscious. And here's a deeper truth. Consumption is often a substitute for meaning. When people feel unfulfilled, disconnected, or behind in life, buying something offers a temporary sense of progress. It feels like movement, like improvement, but real progress is slower. It's investing consistently, learning, building skills, strengthening relationships, improving health. None of those provide instant dopamine spikes. They provide delayed gratification, which is why they're harder. But delayed gratification is the foundation of wealth. The modern economy trains you for instant reward. Finance rewards you for patience. That tension is the real battle. Once you recognize it, you stop fighting yourself and start redesigning your environment. You unsubscribe from promotional emails. You unfollow accounts that trigger comparison. You turn off one-click purchasing. You automate investments so that saving happens before spending. You reduce exposure to temptation rather than relying purely on willpower. Because willpower is finite. Systems are reliable. And over time, the results compound. Not just financially, psychologically. The anxiety around money decreases. The guilt decreases. The impulse weakens. You begin to feel in control instead of reactive. That control is powerful. It changes how you negotiate salaries, how you evaluate opportunities, how you tolerate stress. Financial stability expands options. Options create freedom, and freedom is far more valuable than any product that shows up in a cardboard box. So the next time you feel that late-night urge, that little spark of urgency created by a flashing countdown timer, remember this: the timer is artificial. The scarcity is strategic. The dopamine spike is predictable. But the impact of your financial decisions compounds for decades. You are not broken. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Or whether you'll slow down, introduce friction, and reclaim agency over your money. Because at the end of the day, your money isn't just currency. It's stored time, stored effort, stored possibility. And how you spend it determines what kind of future you build.